I moved into my new apartment 3 months ago. It was old, quiet, and a little dusty, but the rent was cheap, and I liked the feeling of being alone. At least I thought I was alone. The first time I heard the sounds, it was late at night. I was lying in bed, half asleep, when I heard footsteps soft and slow coming from the apartment next door. At first, I didn't think much of it. Maybe I had a neighbor. Maybe they just walked around at night. But the next morning, I asked the landlord about it. He looked at me and said, "That unit is empty. Has been for years." I laughed, thinking maybe he was wrong, but he wasn't. The noises continued. Every night, around 2 or 3 in the morning, I would hear soft footsteps. Sometimes I heard breathing, sometimes whispers. I pressed my ear against the wall, and I heard something, a voice, muttering, low and shaky, like someone was talking to themselves. I couldn't understand the words, but the tone. It felt wrong. It felt cold. I told myself it was nothing. Maybe old pipes. Maybe rats. But rats don't whisper your name. Yes, one night I clearly heard it. A whisper right behind the wall. It said Anna ... my name. My heart was racing. I couldn't sleep for the rest of the night. It said my name. I jumped out of bed and turned on all the light. The next day, I called the landlord again and demanded he check the unit next door. He sighed, like he'd heard this before. He agreed to come by. He opened the door to the next apartment. It was dusty, dark, cold, empty. We walked around, looking for anything strange. Nothing. But then I noticed something. A vent. A small wall vent, facing my bedroom. But it looked like something had been pushed through it. It was old, rusty, and covered in black dust. Something soft. The landlord shrugged. Might be animals, he said. But that night, I couldn't shake the feeling. Something was wrong with that wall. So I did something stupid. I pulled my bed away from the wall. I placed a chair, climbed up, and put my ear to the vent. At first, there was silence. Then breathing. Slow, heavy. Right on the other side. I froze. And then a voice. Clear. This time. It said, "You shouldn't have come here." I fell back off the chair. I grabbed my keys and ran out. I didn't care about my things. I didn't care about the rent. I left that apartment and never went back. A few weeks later, I found a new place. Far away. I tried to forget what happened. But sometimes, late at night, when I close my eyes, I still hear the voice, and it still knows my name. I rented an old countryside house to finish my art project. It was quiet, far from the city, and perfect for painting in peace. The owner was an older man who barely spoke. He handed me the key and said only one thing: "Don't move the painting in the living room." I laughed a little. "Why?" I asked. He just looked at me and said, "It belongs to the house." That should have been my first warning. When I walked into the house, I saw the painting right away. It was large, almost as big as the wall. A portrait of a woman in an old dress. Pale face, dark eyes. She didn't smile. She just stared right at you, no matter where you stood. Creepy. But I left it alone. That night, after setting up my tools, I sat in the living room with a cup of tea. The painting was still there, the woman still staring. Something felt different. Her eyes, I could swear, they were looking more to the left than before. I laughed it off. It's just my imagination, I said. The next morning, I passed the painting again and stopped. The shadows behind her were darker. The background had changed. Now, there was something that looked like a hallway. A small, dark hallway behind her shoulder. I stared at it for a while, trying to remember if it was there yesterday. I wasn't sure. Later that night, I took a photo of the painting, just to compare it in the morning. When I woke up, I looked at the painting again. The hallway in the background was longer now, deeper, almost like it led somewhere. I checked the photo on my phone. In the photo, no hallway, only the original background, blank and flat. The painting had changed, but only in real life. I started feeling uneasy. I began to avoid the living room, but the painting was always there, watching, changing. I walked past the room and saw the painting again. One night, I couldn't sleep. I walked past the room and saw the painting again. Now, there was something else in the hallway. A figure, faint, tall, standing far in the distance. I turned on all the lights. I stared at painting for hours, but I could feel it watching me. I tried to take the painting down. The figure never moved. Pick the next day, but it wouldn't budge. The frame felt stuck glued to the wall. I tried cutting the canvas with a knife. The blade snapped in half. I woke up to a sound. I gave up. I decided I would just leave. But before I could pack, I saw the painting again. The figure was closer now, halfway down the hallway. I didn't sleep that night, but I could still see her, the woman in the painting. Et 3A dragon, like something heavy was moving across the floor. I walked slowly toward the living room. The lights were off. Her face had changed. I didn't even look. I ran out of that house, barefoot in the cold. She was smiling, and behind her, but from behind me, I saw a photo online. Never asked for the key. The figure was gone. That's when I heard it, breathing, not from the painting. I ran. I never went back. The owner never called. But last week, a real estate listing. It was the same house, same painting, only now there were two people in the background, the woman and someone else, someone who looks like me. When we moved into the new house, everything felt perfect. It was a quiet neighborhood. The house was old but charming, with creaky wooden floors and large windows that let in the light. There were 2 bedrooms, one for me and my husband, and one for our 6-year-old son, Ethan. On the first day, while we unpacked boxes, Ethan stood in the hallway. staring at a blank wall. Plea pointed at it and said, "That's where the window goes." We laughed. "There's no window there, buddy," I said. But he kept staring. That night, as we tucked him in, he said something strange. "The eagle in the wall watches me sleep." We thought he was just being silly. New house, new dreams, kids, imagine things. Right by the next morning, I noticed something I hadn't seen before. A small outlined fence and square on the wall he had pointed to, like something had once been there, like a window had been sealed up. Old houses have strange repairs. Ethan kept talking about it. I brushed it off. He said the girl had long hair. Her face was pale. She never blinked. I asked him where she came from. He whispered, "She's always been there." That night, I couldn't sleep. Around 2 a.m., I passed Ethan's room to check on him, and I stopped. He was sitting up in bed, facing the wall, smiling, whispering. I opened the door and asked, "Ethan, what are you doing?" He looked at me and said, "I'm telling her about you." I felt a chill down my spine. The next day, I went into town and asked about the house. The woman at the local shop frowned when I gave the address. She said the house had been empty for years. No one stayed long. When I asked why, she hesitated. Then she said, "Long ago, they never found a body. Just her room. A girl disappeared there." I asked, "What room?" She said, "The one with the missing window." I didn't want to believe it, but when I got home, I looked at the blueprints, and there it was. 3 windows on the side of the house, only 2 from the outside. Something had been covered up. I decided to check for myself. That night, after Ethan fell asleep, I went into his room. I knocked on the wall. It sounded hollow. I pressed against it. Dark, windowed space, just big enough for someone to hide. And felt a draft. The wall wasn't solid. I grabbed a flashlight and a small hammer. I tapped at the edges of the outline. Was a hidden space. The plaster cracked behind it. A small doll, covered in dust. And there was a mattress, moldy, stained, rotten, uncarved into the wood beside it. I turned around and ran. But before I reached the door, I heard something put from inside the wall, knocking, slow, steady, from the other side, and a voice, "You shouldn't have opened it." I covered the hole, grabbed Ethan, and left that house for good. We moved far away. We don't talk about it. But Ethan still draws pictures of her, the girl with long hair, and a third window behind her.